The countdown is underway for the 4th Annual Leaders Summit at IBC Amsterdam on September the 11th. It's a unique sort of occasion where more than 100 chief executives from the communications industries gather to discuss what really matters to them. And right from the start, advisory firm Deloitte has been there with original research. And the person in charge of it is Paul Lee, who is here with me today, and he is Global Director of TMT for Deloitte. Paul, why on earth do we need another session behind closed doors? Haven't we sorted the television industry out yet?
Well, there's always been fundamental questions about the viability of the television model for the last 20, perhaps 30 years. And television has always seen them off. But it comes back again and again. So at the moment, we still have big questions around how to get content through to people, what kind of screens they're going to be looking at. And the reason why we do the original research is to show empirically what is happening.
Everyone seems to be alarmed about the OTT operators, the latest kid on the block, prepared to spend $100 million on a single drama series. What do you think of their business model? Is it sustainable in the long term, and does it really pose a threat to the established players?
When it comes to OTT, we often think about standalone players, but most of the OTT consumption that's happening around the world is actually driven by existing players. So we ought to characterise OTT more about what the mainstream broadcasters are doing. Now, in terms of a standalone market, the challenge is always going to be around rights. So the biggest challenge for any standalone player is having enough content to keep people interested in the long term.
Are there any genuine surprises, things that people need to really pay attention to?
I think what people really need to pay attention to is, so what's a fundamental driver for people watching television, paying for television? And at the moment, what we see is that the three fundamental pillars of finance for television, which are subscriptions, which are advertising, which are government subsidy, remain largely the same. So we don't see any fundamental, at this stage, challenges to that.
What are the 2 or 3 key points emerging from the original research that you are now conducting?
So one of the points which is coming out is that certainly there is increased cost going into the industry. So for example, looking at sports rights, this year premium sports rights globally are going up 14%. And that compares to just 5% in the previous 5 years. So some of the costs are going up quite significantly.
What are the others?
I think one of the perennial challenges of late for the industry is what kind of screen to make content for. So we have hundreds of millions of screens in Europe, all of which are capable of showing television. And they range from about 4 inches at the diagonal to 100 inches. What is the optimal size to create for? Because it's not a case of one size fitting all.
If you were to sum up the need for an executive to attend the IBC Leaders Summit, what would it be?
The main benefit, I would say, of the Leaders Summit over the last 3 years, and without doubt this year, is providing a pragmatic, informed, evidence-based view of what is happening in the television industry behind closed doors, where you can ask the questions you want to ask.
And of course, right from the start, you've done a tour of the IBC exhibition, which is the biggest in Europe and one of the biggest in the world. And it's taking executives who maybe don't come from a technical background, taking them by the hand and saying, you should pay attention to this.
So what we do with the tools is steer executives through to 7 or 8 different stands which we think are relevant for them. A couple of years ago, one of the things that we showed was some demos of 8K, so people could see in their own eyes just the kind of resolution you could see. So it's a kind of experience that you cannot ascribe to words or even to online video. You have to actually experience it to understand it. And last year, one of the standout experiences was seeing the video walls showing how television could be in the future, where the entire living room wall becomes a television set.
Paul Lee, see you in Amsterdam.